Hey, real quick before we start this video, I'm doing one more online webcam tournament for the OP03 format before we're probably switching to OP04. So it's going to be a double box tournament. It's going to be on my Discord. I'm going to be hosting. I'm going to be streaming it as well. It's going to be this Tuesday upcoming. You also have Garrett Farrington from Worst Generation to do the commentary with me. So should be fun. We got a couple spots left open if you guys are interested, and that's going to be fun. So I hope you guys check this out and enjoy the video. Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a double top 16 breakdown for both of the regionals that happened in person in the United States this past weekend. We have the Tulsa regional hosted by PlayTCG, as well as the regionals in Florida hosted by PPG as well. So big shouts to both of them for releasing these lists so I can make this video. Also, I was at the Tulsa one like literally today, like it's like 1 a.m. I just got home. I want to get this video out because I had like a dozen people be like, when's it going up? So I want to make sure it's going up right after this. I'm probably just falling asleep after this, posting this automatically at 7 a.m. So if there's any mistakes, I'm sorry about that, and let me know, and I'll fix it as soon as I get up. But I'm exhausted right now. So we're just going to zoom on through this as well, and looking at both these top 16s. And also, I do want to mention that both of them were live streamed on Twitch, so there are links to both of those on my website there, on the PPG channel, as well as on the PlayTCG, I think it's the Stadium channel. So it was the one that I was able to do the production and the background stuff, and then we had Risu and Brock do the commentary for that, for the PlayTCG one, and then 3 Swords Production did the one for the for PPG, which is really cool. So make sure to check both of those out if you guys haven't already. And jumping onto this one, we see a lot of Newgate. Crazy. Newgate did win both these events, which should not be honestly too surprising at this point anymore. It's established that the nerfs that happened didn't really happen, so it's still the best deck. In my honestly, I feel like it's the best deck. I didn't know which one was better between Zoro and Newgate, and I think in my mind Newgate's just still the best there. So we do have that. We do have some interesting decks popping up there, and also I do want to say like only one Zoro did top for the PPG event, and then just a couple for the PlayTCG event, which is really interesting. We did have a good amount of Trafalgar Law, which obviously the PPG event had more for those ones. Some Lucci's, a good amount of green for both, and also the Magellan that I was able to do the interview with Diego in person for it, which is really, really cool. So we're going to do the top placing leaders between both events, just kind of based on records. So we're going to have some leaders we look at both between the two of them, but we're just going to jump on into it. So we have the first place Newgate. So this one is Alec's version, and this is Evan's version. Both got first place, and both are moderately different. Like you will see there are some different ratios for these. We do see that Evan's build is running the 4 of Machinos. Meanwhile, no Machinos in sight for Alex's build, running 4 blockers between the 2 choppers and the 2 fossas. Meanwhile, just 2 choppers for the side of Evan. So just kind of like differences on what we're seeing for these. If you look at even like the amount of 4 drops as well, we're just seeing 4 between the 2-2 split, but then we also just see like 4 Frankies absolutely. And I think like it's just like a difference of playstyle for this, because we also have like the crossfire here, and I think this one is like a little bit more greedy with playing your 1 drops and kind of going in and having that potential for you. There's also the Nico Robin, and honestly like I know that Evan and Garrett are on the same team. This definitely looks a lot like the build that Garrett was running, so and it might actually be card for card. I haven't actually checked because I'm really tired, but I think that's probably just what they're used to, and kind of more for that. And then I would say that Alex's version is kind of more of like the standard Strawbeard that we've been seeing honestly for like the last 5 months or so, however long Newgate's been out in the meta. So a lot of similarities there. So these are topping lists. Congratulations to both Alec and Evan for their win this weekend. And then next up, we do have the Zoro list here. And we did have 2 go X1 between the 2 events. I don't have Christopher's list now. It's the only one I'm missing. It'll probably be up on the website as soon as I get it. So keep checking back on there. But we do have, again, Steven's list here, who did go X1 with it. And this is the only list of Zoro that topped in PPG, which, again, wild to me that only one got in the top 16 in this current meta. But running more of like the event builds, we're running 12 events, which is honestly a little bit unlike the lower side. I've been seeing like some people go like 13 plus for it, but we got all the good stuff. We got the Jombe, the Rad Beam, the Guard Point, Fiery Doll, 2 of which I think a lot of people are almost making super common for that choice. 3 Fire Fists, 1 Jet Pistol, and a Red Hawk. We do also have like the one of Borinquen, which I think some people have been testing at 1 or 2 copies. It is pretty strong for getting just things into Fire Fist range, which is fantastic. We do have 2 copies of Gordon, 2 copies of the Magra, which either people like play like 2, 3, 4 copies of Magra or 0 at all. It's funny how much of like this is like some people are like you have to run Magra, and then other people are like it's a bad card, it doesn't do anything for you. So I do think that Zoro is a deck that does have a lot of like build variety in it, which is really nice because I know that it's a very popular deck and a lot of people who are kind of sick with it, but I do still appreciate the fact that you can choose which cards you want, and that's kind of just an issue of maybe the red card pool being so good that you have to kind of pick and choose which cards you want on a higher level, but I kind of digress from there. So I don't know. Zoro is very good. Congratulations to both our Zoro players, or all our Zoro players, but in Steven's list right here as well. So and then our last bit of red until we jump into other decks, we do have the Nechemias. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but they're Trafalgar Law. I think they got second for PPG. Is that correctly? Yeah, they got second in it, going 8-1 with it. So we've been seeing a lot of Trafalgar Law essentially since conception. I don't have a lot of unique things to say about it anymore because again, this is strictly a set one list with a Vista, right? I think Vista is like the only new card. We don't have, I guess, Dodon as well, but we don't have any of the Makinos in this build. We don't have any of we have the Sunnies. The Nami Star Deck promo is, or not Star Deck, but the Star Deck card that has the winner promo. But this one at 4 is quite a bit. I know this is usually some people like tech it at like 2 copies, and also I like to say like most of the time when I see this Nami, it's usually paired with the 3-drop Zoro from the Star Deck just to be able to get that Dawn underneath it for free. So a little interesting there, but it does obviously still combo very well with the Luffy, especially if you need to get the 2 Dawn underneath it so you can use its effect. And since you have like a leader effect that costs 2, it's not too terribly hard to have like the Dawn, to put underneath it without having to play a character at that time. So I think that's good. But generically, there's not that much variety. I think in Law, I think half the deck, is pretty understood. Your 1-drop brigade. This again, Sunny's not as common, I'd say. But I'd say this one's probably running a little bit more 1-drops than I'm usually used to seeing, especially with like the Nami and the Sunny. So I think that's unique in that way. That's more in the lower end, especially since we're only seeing 2 of the Star Deck Law and then 4 of the big guy. So anyways, this is their list. Congratulations for their finish there. And then next up we have our Katakuri. So this is Tyler's Katakuri list. And we didn't see a lot of yellow. In this, we had, I think, 2 yellows in the PPG event and 1 in the Play TCG event, like, again, sneaking into 16th place there. But it's just a very, strong, core, and a lot of it is, people dislike this card, and I understand why. Because if you get to late game, or if you miss your tempo, or something's up, if you can, your opponent can safely establish the 10-drop, you probably just lose. Like this is such a swinger of advantage for you in a lot of ways that if you're able to set it up, it's very, very strong. So I understand it from that side. But I also think like the meta is fast enough that it's hard to get to that point safely too, which is there, especially since these decks don't have a lot of remove. It's only Thunderbolt, and Thunderbolt using it, the correct way to, you have to crit a life to, or trash a life to do that. I think that's kind of strong for it. So, but the rest of the deck I think is like yellow just is fair. It does give you some unfair potential by the first card in your life is Perospero. You're probably the win rate probably exponentially rises for it. And then we do have our new set of cards. So we do have 3 copies of Yamato, 4 copies of the Arrow, which is a lot. This is a really, really good defensive card because you can use it, give something -6 for the turn is great. There are some cards that do restand attacks too. So I think that's there. And then kind of just the generic ratios that we've been seeing for yellow for a bit. So I do like having the 4/6, especially since it goes around Fire Fist, which is really nice, and just kind of everything else for it. So this is the list here. Congratulations to Tyler for their finish. And then next up we have our Magellan, and I'm going to go really quick through it. I did do an interview with Diego. That's super great. I highly recommend looking at that as well. He's a little short of words sometimes, but I do appreciate the interview with him, and again, a really great accomplishment. Also, if you guys remember, there was a Texas Regional back in May. He got 32nd with GARP in that event as well. So definitely a very strong player who uses a lot of unique decks that I think a lot of people are not would say are not capable of topping. He finds a way to do it anyway. So I think that's really cool. So just generically though, this is it's just really just dependent on Magellan being a good character. A lot of decks are really, really, really based on their curve and seeing stuff their turns outright. So being able to set them back a turn means that some decks don't really have like a backup plan, and it can kind of give you more time. Obviously against Newgate, it's very good because they can't get to their high end as quickly, and since they're on a kind of internal clock due to needing hitting their life every time, I think this Magellan can help swing those matchups a lot of the time. So I haven't played Magellan in a minute, but I do remember that if he hit this on curve, that a lot of Newgates have a hard time recovering from that. So but generically good ratios, running a good amount of the Minos, 3 of each, some good 2Ks, as well as 2 of the Gum Gum Jet Gatling, which I really do like these 0 counters. Like these are fantastic, being especially in purple where you have so many potential dead cards in hand. The Thunderbog as well, and then the Hell's Judgment. He said specifically too that Thunderbog was really nice because people will see 2 Dawn open and they'll play around Hell's Judgment. And so they'll put 3 Dawn underneath something to be able to, get around the Hell's Judgment, and then you just Thunder Boggle instead. And then they just kind of, they countered 3K over, and you can 4K over for 1. And you almost always can get the Dawn back because you can go down to life, and you do so many Dawn minus effects as well. So also the cute 1 of copy of Luffy, just having something that has Russian purple is good. Discarding a 5 cost isn't too terrible, especially I think late game if they're at 10 Dawn, like Magellan doesn't do anything anymore. So being able to say, you know what, instead let's just play this Luffy. It's a 7K with Rush, which is great. Has an on play with Dawn -1, which means your Magellan gets the boost there. And I think that's really powerful. So I think that's a good call for the deck too. So anyways, this is the list. If you want to see it with my interview with Diego, it's linked in the description. Highly recommend it. And congrats again. So next up we have our Lucci list. So this is Clay Hill's list. If you guys are new to the channel, Clay is from Locals. I think this is, I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure this is the list that he's been topping with almost every time that he has. He's been doing very, very well with Lucci in this season. He's been playing it a lot. Probably the best Lucci player, at least most consistent Lucci player that I know, or at least top 2. Shouts to Jonas as well. But both very, very strong. I don't have a lot to say about this one, and it's just very good. You watch him play, he does very well. But I also do want to mention Kyle Waple's list too, who did get a top finish in the Play TCG event as well. Both of them, I think, are previous Serial Luffy winners, and now they were able to get him again. So I know specifically Kyle would, I think he played with his Serial Luffy because he got one really early, and then he played it like Luffy set 1 with it too, which is really crazy. So, but both very strong players, and Kyle's list is a little bit unique. Some ratios and some cards that I haven't been seeing as much, and using some of the new cards that we get out of the starter deck as well, which is unique because I haven't been seeing a lot of them. But the key cards are like the VV, which is just a trigger blocker. Being able to just get an extra blocker from life can be very strong, especially in a 5 life leader. Also the Kobe, I really do like this Kobe, and I think this is a fantastic card for potentially doing some Rob Lucci cheese. I've been using a lot of the Meteor Volcano to be able to say for 2 pop a 1 cost, and I can restand my leader and get the effect from it. But Kobe's kind of like a little bit more like you have to use 4 Dawn for it, so you can only do 2 11K swings with Lucci. But at the same time, like this is easier to play. Sometimes it just combos better for what it is, and it's a counter in hand all the time too. And I do like the 3 cost Kobe as well. I've kind of had this like the same idea. Like you do have to have 4 cards in hand to do it, but this being able to pop a 3 or less means that you can, if you need to swing a second time with your Rob Lucci leader, it's able, it's potential for you there, which is nice. So I like all that. Obviously Garp, kind of the same thing, and just there's a lot of removal in this build, a lot of ways to kind of punish having no protection, including having the 10 drop Kuzan, which I haven't seen the 10 drop in Lucci in a minute, at least in Lucci builds that have been doing well, but 3 whole copies of it means that this is, obviously this is just a Navy build for it. Like normally we've been seeing, like there's like the CP9 build, which is usually air door. We have like the mix build, and then there's just almost like fully Navy build, which is really interesting to see there because there's no copies of Kaku for this. You have 2 copies of Isho, 3 Kuzans, and again 4 of the Sakazuki. So I do like what this deck does, and I do have to try, I guess I'll have to try this one because I haven't tried like the pure Navy build in a minute. I've been really on like the dual and a little bit on the air door as well, but just congratulations to both Clay and Kyle for their finish there. So lastly, we're going to talk about a couple green decks. We've got Chi Sung and Boris with their Starter Deck kids, both of them playing different versions. So we've got the film version and the Supernova version for it. So I do like the film version. I've been obviously playing a lot of OP04. So the film version is in the, the film cards are in my mind right now with them. So I do think like the Luffy, like the Nami is obviously one of the better cards for it. And I think the Lucci's really great too. He just helps you build the board. You can play this for 7, and Dofi's effect, you get the 2 Dom back, which is really strong. I don't think the Bart is as good in the future sets, but I think in Captain Kid, I think he's very good because you do need to sometimes just be able to restand your Luffy and still want to swing with it, which is really nice. So we kind of have all those pieces with it. But this one's leaning a little bit more Supernova than I've seen previously, having the Bonnie, the 3 copies of Killer, and then also being able to like get the Punk Gibson, which is really nice. The Supernovas also include Luffy and Zoro, so both those can be found from it, and just everything else. So I do like the film kit. I do think it can be a little bit inconsistent, but the leader effect can still sometimes win you the game. And then kind of definitely in the same way we do have Boris's build. 8-drop is great still. I'm going to say that every time I see one of these decks that the 8-drop is in a really good spot. So, but everything else is kind of generically what we've seen. I think the newest card is Cat Viper, which is just the 3-drop blocker. The fact that it's a 4K means it doesn't get popped by Marco, which is really nice, which most of your other blockers do get popped by that. So being able to play this is great. It doesn't have counter, which is really unfortunate, but otherwise strong. And then the Yamato. So we do have a good amount of Wanos that you can find off your Momo that we're only playing 3 of. And then a good amount of 2Ks from like the Tony Chopper, the Pooh, the Ezo. Playing 2 copies of Cat Viper as well to help probably like just Zoro matchup, I guess. And potentially Trafalgar Law, which was obviously present for at least the PPG event. And just kind of some additional green cards from there. So you can be like a little bit greedier with cards not having counter because you can always pitch them with your leader effect if you really need to. But it is a bit of a worry for this deck for me too. But that's the list there. Congratulations to both Chi-Shung and Boris for their finish. And to wrap it up, we have Devin Butterworth's Kinemon. And Devin's been doing pretty good with Kinemon. I believe they topped one of the Gen Con regionals in person at the beginning of this month. And if you know Devin from Dragon Ball Super, he's definitely a grinder for like green as a color and as a deck. So bringing that over to the One Piece card game as well. And I personally still like Kid a little bit more, but Kinemon does have some good power with it. There are some matchups where like being able to play Okiku early is great, and then just the fact that like Yamato is great. The 8-drop Odin is good. I think a lot of people also won't be playing around Krieg as much. I definitely just never remember to play around this card, and Zoro decks that like to play and have a lot of cards sideways. Being able to play this Krieg, I think, is great because you'll definitely have like a card that's dead in your hand that you don't need anyways. Being able to get that pop and then being able to get back the advantage by doing a big double attack is very strong. And the only thing you got to be careful, like if their opponent establishes a buggy, you're in a bad spot. But I think there's less Zoros that are doing well right now, as well as there are. Some Zoros just aren't playing buggy anymore either, which means that I think Kinemon can kind of get back from a really bad matchup just because you had so many cards with Slash and as their attribute that it was just kind of made it difficult. So, but Kinemon's been like in a weird spot, I think, since set 2. I didn't really get anything new from set 3, except for technically Krieg, if you want to count him, which he's good. He's a good card if you set him up. He's a little expensive, and kind of clunky because you have to discard a card even if you're just popping one card. But it's usually worth it, and just the amount of tempo, and your opponent kind of has to address this card a little bit, which is really cool. So anyways, that's the list there. Congratulations to Devin, and that's going to be it for this video today. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to go literally pass out after this, but I really appreciate it if you made it this far. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. That's going to be it for me. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.